Hey everyone, Z-Slayer Dre here, and today I'll be reviewing Watch Dogs Legion, published by Ubisoft. I actually enjoyed the first Watch Dogs, and yes, it had the generic Ubisoft revenge plot, but it was a competently told story. Chicago was an interesting city to explore, and the hacking mechanics gave the game a unique feel. Watch Dogs 2 just didn't mesh with me. They went way too far, making the story just way too light, and while some of the gameplay mechanics were fine-tuned, the controls felt really just janky. So that brings us to Watch Dogs Legion, set in the near dystopian London, where you can play as anyone you find on the street. It's a unique and ambitious game mechanic to base a game around, and since Ubisoft has been really struggling with its releases lately, let's see if they've recovered and actually were able to put out a good game again. The game starts off with a bang, and I mean a literal bang, where London is bombed by a mysterious rival hacking group to DedSec called Zero Day. You start off playing as a generic spy who is a member of DedSec desperately attempting to stop the bombs from going off. You of course fail and are killed, and then the game proper starts where you can start recruiting new members of DedSec. While the bombs were going off, DedSec's base was raided and most of the members were killed or are missing or in hiding. You get a choice of a few people to start off with, and it makes zero difference who you pick, but we'll go over that more later, and are sent to bring the old DedSec hideout back online. You meet Bagley, the AI, who will be really the main character of the game since he's the person that gives you most of your missions and helps you do everything from hack enemies to recruit more members to build your team. Although the people you recruit are randomized, there will be a few non-playable characters the story revolves around that will join your cause. They each have their own set of missions and investigate various people and gangs in London, trying to find out clues as to who Zero Day is and why they bombed London. Albion is a military contractor that has taken over the protection of the city and who will be your main antagonist throughout the story. They have drones and troops stationed throughout the city, and if you do anything against the law, they will be the ones chasing after you, and they can be pretty relentless at times. You can actually recruit some of the members, although it is more difficult since you have to do a few favors for them before you can start recruiting them. I didn't even bother since my team was so full to the brim quickly, I just didn't need any more members. To recruit someone who is interested in joining DedSec, you need to do one or two missions, which are typically identical to all the main story missions. Go to an enemy base and clear it out, and then rinse and repeat. There's little to no variation in any of the gameplay outside of a very small handful of missions that will try to mix things up, but in the end, kind of just end up falling short. Being able to recruit anyone off the street was the main focus of the marketing for Watch Dogs Legion, which was incredibly ambitious and could have been an amazing gameplay mechanic, but unfortunately Ubisoft was not willing to put the time and effort into making it work. You can simply use the first person you recruit for every mission and it will make little difference. The stealth mechanics don't particularly work well, so I found going in guns blazing was the fastest and most effective method. There is a tech tree that is shared amongst all your recruited members, but is different than the other Watch Dogs games. You don't earn experience this time around. You kind of just find tech points lying around in the city, and you can earn them from completing missions. But the tech tree it's just mostly items you can use in your loadout or just extra hacking options. Most of the talents in the tree are identical just for different drones, which felt like a huge letdown. I really did assume that you would be able to develop and level up your various team members, making each member feel unique with their own skill trees, but every character is almost virtually identical, and most of the unique talents a person may have are completely useless, since again, you can just breeze through the game just using even the weakest weapon. That being said, the combat does feel a bit more polished this time around, especially with the gunplay mechanics. They did add in a melee system, but it rarely worked properly and was far less effective than just shooting your enemies. The only time they really tried to mix things up was with the spider drone. There were some sections of levels where you had to crawl through vents solving mini puzzles, which was actually generally pretty well done. There were even a few missions where you had to use a flying drone to navigate through vents that required tight flight mechanics, but unfortunately the controls felt awful, which made just going through the levels feel very tedious. Also, sadly, the driving has not improved and may even be worse than in the previous titles, especially when using the keyboard. It honestly may be the worst driving mechanics with a keyboard I've ever seen. Using a controller helps a bit, but it's still not that great. It's basically the same thing as the first two Watch Dogs games, except it's been grinded down to a fine paste with some removed features. There's absolutely no multiplayer right now. They have said they will add it in a later, update, but, again, at launch, there are missing features. Chicago and even San Francisco felt like they were alive, and especially in the first game, you had plenty to do in the open world. I don't know how they managed to make London, of all cities, feel dead, but they pulled it off. London is such an incredible city with so much history, but it just felt bland and unmemorable in Legion. Honestly, couldn't even tell I was in London half the time. There's next to nothing to do in the city, and even clothing stores were removed, and instead you just stand outside a kiosk and change your clothes in public. I'm at a loss of words for how utterly lazy this game feels. The story is not any better. In fact, it's probably the worst part of the game. The writing is absolutely atrocious. There is nothing original in any of the mini arcs, and most of it is just a straight ripoff from much better written games, movies, and TV shows. Ubisoft is known for horrible dialogue, but Watch Dogs Legion somehow takes it a step further. I really can't stress how poorly written the dialogue is for the characters you recruit. Every other word is fam followed by a British slang word. This gives no life to the characters you recruit and makes them feel bland and uninspired. They used voice modulation to make the voices sound different, and it's so poorly done. I can't believe they felt okay to release this game. It's just embarrassing. The original voices that are not modulated typically consist of competent voice acting, but since the script is so atrocious, there's really nothing the voice actors could have done to elevate their performance. All in all, this feels more like a tech demo or proof of concept more than an actual video game. The AI is some of the worst I've ever seen, and I'm pretty sure they just imported it from Ghost Recon Breakpoint, since the AI behaves identical in that game to this one. There were actually quite a few times where I'd be shooting at an enemy in the head, and they would just keep walking, going about their business like nothing was happening. And at other times, they would just walk in a conga line to my fire and die one by one. Everything in the game, outside of the recruit anyone mechanic, has been done to death in every other Ubisoft game. I can't tell the difference anymore if I'm playing a Division game, or Assassin's Creed game, or Ghost Recon game, or even a Watch Dogs game. There's nothing unique to them, and they all have the same gameplay mechanic. Go to enemy base, and clear out enemy base. Repeat that 100 more times, and you have a Ubisoft game. Oh, and don't forget about the collectibles. You gotta have a billion collectibles. As far as bugs and glitches go, it was really hard to tell what was a feature and what was a glitch, since the game was so poorly put together. Most of the glitches were on the graphical side though, as pop-in was a huge issue. The performance was also abysmal even after a huge patch and new Nvidia drivers. With how bad the game looked visually, it should have ran considerably better than it did. There was also absolutely no sync with the audio and the mouth movement. It was so bad, I don't even think they attempted to make it work. Basically, we have a pointless sequel. There is no reason for Watch Dogs Legion to exist outside the fact that they needed to release a product from one of their well-known IPs to please the shareholders, instead of them having a story that had to be told with amazing gameplay mechanics that needed to be enjoyed by people. They just released a factory standard thrown together pile of garbage and felt like their customers should pay $120 for the privilege of experiencing the entire game. Yes, that's right, this heap of crap will cost $120 for the complete experience. Personally, I just did the Uplay Plus for 1 month for $15, which still felt like a ripoff. I feel really horrible for whoever dished out that amount of money for the complete edition. Oh, and it gets better, because it has microtransactions, because, of course it does. There is no conceivable reason as to why this game needs microtransactions, other than it's a Ubisoft game, and a Ubisoft game has to have microtransactions. They're so utterly pointless, it's just a bunch of cosmetic crap. All your recruited members already have their own outfits. I never once felt any desire to even look at the store, let alone waste an obscene amount of money on virtual clothes. I can't believe microtransactions have gotten this bad, and we still need to remind publishers and developers this type of behavior is unacceptable, because it will just keep getting worse and worse and worse. So all that being said, this game is a complete train wreck and really has no reason to even exist. So I give Watch Dogs Legion a 3 out of 10. I would absolutely recommend staying away from this game, even at a steep discount. I don't see any price that would feel reasonable to pay for this game. Even if it was free, it's just a waste of your hard drive space. I have to say, after playing this, I'm extremely concerned at how bad Assassin's Creed Valhalla will be. I really thought AAA video games could not get worse than Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but now we have Marvel's Avengers and Watch Dogs Legion. It's clear things can get much, much worse than they already are. How do we stop this? stop buying these games. It's as simple as that. If we vote with our wallets and stop riding one hype train to the next, then game publishers will be forced to release higher quality products. I was going to put off reviewing Assassin's Creed Valhalla till much later because of Cyberpunk, but now that got delayed, so I guess I'll have to review that next. Thankfully, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity comes out shortly after that, which I think at worst will be a mediocre game, but from what I've seen, it might end up being quite good. I have reasonable expectations, but I'm trying not to get too excited for that one. So anyways, I hope this helps some people save their money, and I really do hope Ubisoft finds a way to recover. They have some franchises that I really do like, and would love to see them make great games again in those franchises. But it's gotten so bad, I don't see that ever happening again, sadly. With this many poor releases in a row, Ubisoft is starting to seriously damage its brand, and after a few more, they might start facing serious financial issues, more so than they already have. And I know they did promise to make things better, but game development takes a really long time, even if they were telling the truth when they said they were going to do it, which I have my doubts. Watch Dogs Legion was probably already too far in the development process. They really should have, not released it. They should have completely put it on the back burner and gone back to the drawing board. But, this is why I don't trust them, because they felt fine releasing this game, even though they promised to not make all their games feel identical to each other and release them in higher quality states. But, then they released this, so you cannot trust what they say. But if you enjoyed the video, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit the like button and be sure to subscribe so you can see reviews for all the biggest games coming out over the next few weeks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.